Hello and welcome to a tutorial on how to write good analysis. Now, the main resource for writing good analysis of any visual image, whether you're doing art or photography, whether it be GCSE or A-level, is to use the 1, 2, 3 Analysis Thought Stems resource. This can be found on the Prep Learning website. It's very simple and straightforward, hence the title 1, 2, 3. We are looking for 3 paragraphs of analysis. The first paragraph, as we can see here, is the visual analysis. You need to use the 5 W's. Ask yourself a question: what do you see? What is in the picture? Who is in the picture? Why are they there? And what does this tell us? The second paragraph is then much more about the technical and practical analysis. You need to start to think about how it was made and why was it made in this way. How might this affect your work and ideas? And you need to start to discuss the use of photography and editing if you are indeed looking at photography. The third paragraph is the contextual analysis. When and how was the artwork made? Why is this significant? And why did the artist create the work? Is there a story or a narrative? And if so, what is it? And why have you chosen this image to discuss? Now, the other thing to think about at this point is you need to be linking all of your thoughts to your theme. Now, your theme may be your exam theme. So you need to think carefully about this because this is where you get to sound insightful as a candidate. Now, to help you further with each of these paragraphs, there are then 3 further slides, one for each of the paragraphs. So the first paragraph being the visual analysis, and there's a series of thought stems that you can use as sentence starters in order to construct your writing. The second paragraph is the same, technical and practical analysis, lots of interesting thought stems for you to use, such as, I have chosen, whatever it may be, to use because. I have adapted my idea in relation to. My intentions have changed because. These are all interspersible and all there for you to use. The third slide is exactly the same. It helps you to create your third paragraph for contextual analysis. It has interesting things like the time when this artwork is created is significant because, or I know that the message is conveying, I know the artist is conveying this message because. And it just helps you to start to structure your ideas and to write in a purposeful way. Now we're going to look at a few examples. There is some really good practice here, and there's lots to take away. Now this example I think is particularly good, because what it does, it clearly shows the photograph that's being analysed, not something to overlook. The presentation is good in the sense that there's a balance to the slide, and there's all of these key words. It's almost like the student's initial thoughts are unpacked for us in the beginning, which does look very thoughtful. This example is particularly strong because it goes further. It's annotating the picture, which is good practice, but what it's also doing is starting to quite clearly visually deconstruct the image. We can see here that the student's thinking that this picture has balance, it's split into quarters, and you can also see that the classical triangle clearly is being used on the image. Now this is then spoken about in the text, and what's nice to see here is it has got those 3 clear paragraphs. The first paragraph is largely descriptive of what's in the picture. The second paragraph starts to talk lots more about how it was made. It does start to talk about the feeling and the mood of the picture, which I think should be in the third paragraph. This example is really quite nice because, again, we've got 3 clear paragraphs, not a lot of writing. It'd be nice to see a little bit more. But what is nice here is the fact that we've got the image in its original format, and then the image which has started to have the visual overlays over the top is separate. So it's not obscuring the image, we're still able to see the original, and again those annotations are coming through. This example goes one step furthermore. You can see a really clear and robust composition. There's no gaps on the page. There's lots of meaningful annotation. The diagrammatic approach with these deconstructive compositional frame lines are really clear to see. Personally, I would have quite liked to see the original as well. But what is really, really nice here is where you've got the compositional attributes, in this case the classical triangle, you can see that those words have been picked up in the same color coding. Again, it just looks so thoughtful. It looks really insightful and something I would highly recommend you think about doing on your own work. Okay, so in this last section of the video, what we're now going to do is have a go at discussing what sort of things we could be talking about when we're writing our 3 paragraphs. So the first one is the visual analysis, and the easiest way to show someone you're breaking down the image is to just start annotating the picture. So we could point out the fact that there's a shallow depth of field being used, or perhaps a Gaussian blur has been applied on Photoshop. We can already start to discuss our thoughts. We could talk about the fact that we think the cupcake stands out and the reasons why we think it stands out. Maybe because it's in the middle and it's centered, maybe because it's in sharp focus. You can start to bring these to people's attention straight away. The visual analysis thought stems then are here to help you furthermore. So you've got little things like the Gaussian blur in the picture is significant because. You'll notice I've picked this little thought stem here. The Gaussian blur, or the shallow depth of field in this picture, is significant because it draws my attention to the cupcake. The reason why my attention is drawn to the cupcake is because the rest of the image is in a soft focus because of the Gaussian blur or because of the shallow depth of field. So these sentence starters, you should try and use as many of them as you can. The second paragraph then focuses on the technical and practical analysis. Now, I can't emphasize this enough. You now need to say what you think, how you think the image has been made, okay? Because if later on in your project you discover that maybe it was made in a different way, well, that's good. That's showing you're learning. It's showing a deeper understanding, a deeper connection to the artist's work. So thought stems you might be using in here. I have used the effect of shallow depth of field in my work because it brings the focus to a certain area, to a certain subject within the picture. I think the shutter speed has been adjusted because there is a shallow depth of field. And I know that in order to create a shallow depth of field, I need to adjust the aperture. And therefore, to get the correct exposure, the shutter must have been changed as well. So again, these are all sentence starters and are all little things that you can be thinking about when writing your analysis. The third and final paragraph then is the contextual analysis. This is where you start to get really deep and meaningful. The idea is that you start to connect with the image, you talk about it personally, you talk about it in terms of how it fits your theme, and most importantly in terms of narrative. So you've got thought stems like, I know the artist is conveying this message because, or the narrative to this image is, and it links to my theme because. These are all thought stems that help you to start to unpack what you think about the image and how it links to your project. The last little thought I will leave you with is this section here on the 1, 2, 3 analysis thought stems resource. So it is important to structure our writing. It is important for us to think about it in terms of visual analysis, in terms of technical and practical analysis, and in terms of contextual analysis. But also it's important to think about the general language that we're using. I would highly recommend that you try to use personal language. Now, this is as simple as using the word I, but it's also you telling us what you think and explaining your thoughts and ideas. Don't just make open-ended statements. Try to unpack them so that we can give you more marks. Discuss why you've chose the image, not in terms of whether or not you like it, but in response to the theme. Okay, so the idea is that this doesn't look random. It's very deliberate. It's deliberate that you're looking at this image because you think it's going to help improve your project and your own ideas. And then technical language. The technical language should be flowing throughout all of which you're doing. So demonstrate your knowledge of photography and art. Explain how composition has been used. Explain any creative decisions within the image. Explain how light has been used. And explain any settings that might have been changed on the camera. So at every given moment, you're trying to show off your understanding of photography. You're signposting that you're a really fluent candidate and that you really understand not just why this image was made or why it is important that you're analysing it. You're actually really demonstrating a real genuine understanding of how it was made. Now, of course, in an ideal scenario, if you do a good job of this analysis in terms of all 3 paragraphs, you will be in a position where you'll be able to really bring together how the process and the technique actually helps to enhance the narrative, and how that narrative does, of course, link to your project and your own ideas. Thanks a lot for watching. There's lots more how-to videos on the Prep Learning website. Do use them. And when you've done your analysis, feel free to send it to your teacher, and of course, we'll give you some feedback. Thank you. Bye-bye.